Hey everybody, it's Jim here. In today's video, we're going to be comparing and talking about some of the differences between a Fender American Vintage 2 and a Fender Custom Shop guitar. We're going to be doing also a brief sound demonstration so you can get an idea of how these two specific guitars sound in relation to one another, as well as some key details that I wish I knew going into purchasing my very first Fender Custom Shop. However, before we go any further with this video, there is one thing that I would like to make very clear. The intention of this video is not to be, is the Fender Custom Shop worth 2 or 3 times as much money as the Fender American Vintage 2, or conversely, the Fender American Vintage 2 is all you'll ever need and the Fender Custom Shops are overpriced guitars that aren't worth the hype and for posers that only like pre-beaten up things. I'm not here for any of that. All we're going to be talking about today are some observations and more specifically some things that you will feel and some things you immediately will notice or should know going into either of these instruments if it's something that you're in the market for that a spec sheet isn't always going to do the best job of conveying information-wise. So to begin with, this is a 2021 Journeyman Relic, which means it's not completely devoid of all of its paint. It does have quite a few random markings on it and checking all over it. However, that's going to be expected with this level of Relic. This is on the lighter side when it comes to the Fender Custom Shop, believe it or not. You do have a 9.5-inch radius with medium jumbo frets. So despite the fact that this looks like a time machine of an instrument as far as the aesthetic goes, in practice when you're actually playing it, it don't feel like an old guitar, and that might be something you really like. Maybe you just want the look of an old Fender guitar, but you like some more modern appointments to it. And speaking of those, the last thing that I absolutely made a bullet point of making into this video, how rolled these fret edges are on the fingerboard. It is borderline excessive. On the thumb over side, it's to die for rhythm work. I absolutely adore it. But on the treble side, if you're somebody who plays like I do, a lot of these really fast funk kind of lines, this is the only guitar, and the Jaguar was similar in a sense, the Fender Custom Shop Jaguar, that I would sometimes, more than ever, pull off the E string from the fingerboard itself on accident. And perhaps that's all on my personal technique here, or lack thereof quality technique, but I have to say the Fender Custom Shops are the only guitars I've ever had that happen with. And now on to the American Vintage 2. What they really were going for here was to give you the experience of somebody in the early 60s who would be purchasing one of these guitars in its original form, or close to its original form. You do have the traditional vintage 7.25-inch radius, and you do have vintage tall frets on this guitar. The edges are rolled on this guitar, but nowhere near to the same amount that they are on the Custom Shop. So that problem I was just mentioning about the E string slipping off, I have yet to have that. And in case you're screaming at the monitor saying, it's your string alignment, you have to move the neck. Nah, it has nothing to do with that. I tried everything when it came to that, and I tried different string gauges. It just did not matter, but I digress. You do have no wear or relicking on this guitar, and if you're somebody who really wants the vintage vibe, this is the best you're going to get from Fender USA. But I think it's a good time to take a break from the talking and hear these guitars in relation to each other. We did use the Friedman Pink Taco version 2 again, mic'd up with the SM57. Any reverb that you hear is from the Strymon Bellante. And now that we've heard what these two guitars sound like, go ahead and leave a comment down below with which one you preferred and why. And while you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. Now, prior to the sound comparison, I did not mention anything about the electronics or the pickups that both of these guitars come with because I wanted to save that for right now. This guitar has American Vintage 263 pickups that are unique to this guitar and new for this model. The Fender Custom Shop has hand-wound 58 pickups in it. It's not my first go with a set of those pickups. They are phenomenal. That's really the only other thing that is going to separate these two guitars is going to be the pickups. You might love the way that this sounded compared to this one. And if I'm just putting on my neutral hat here, when I think of what a traditional old Fender Telecaster sounds like, it leans a little bit more towards this guitar, whereas this sounds like a much more refined, much more modern instrument by comparison. And whether or not one's better or not to your own ears, that's going to be totally subjective, but I was not expecting the difference to be as stark as it was as far as the actual sounds from the amplifier when we did the comparison. Now, earlier in this video, I did say I didn't want to make this about value. I didn't want to have an overall winner in that sense, but I will leave you with this before we get going here. When I was filming this, and as I've had these two guitars for a little bit now, well, this one for a long while and this one for a little bit, Every time that I'm playing the surf green one and then I switch to this one, I immediately notice that this feels like a much more expensive guitar than the American Vintage 2. Is that going to quantify itself in the price? That's going to be all up to you and what you feel comfortable or what you should reasonably be spending on an instrument. We're all in different situations, and honestly, even though this guitar does feel better than this one to me, I'm still selling this guitar because it's not exactly what I want. But I did want to say that in the case of these two guitars, I was absolutely able to notice a little bit of a difference between them straight off the bat with the feel, and it has nothing to do really with neck shape or anything like that. It's one of those weird things when you play an exceptional guitar, you notice these kinds of things. But just as a summary here, if you're somebody who likes the look of an old guitar, but not necessarily the specifications of it, you really like some of these modern features like the extremely rolled fingerboard edges, the modern radius, and the bigger fret wire, you're gonna love a Fender Custom Shop. If you're somebody who just wants something that's way more vintage correct, that's as good as you're going to get from Fender USA. But that's it. That's all I wanted to do today. Thank you for watching this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know which one you would rather have. If money was no object, would you rather have something with more modern specs, or would you rather have something with more vintage specs? Very curious to know where you all stand on that. And don't forget, play your guitar and enjoy the rest of your day. Take it easy, everybody.